I mean, it's pretty serious. I mean, the reality is the charge sheet against him is very long. Delays in vaccination procedures, the encouragement of false cures like chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine. And he's been flouting the idea of social distancing and so on and so forth. It's a very long report. It's been going on. It's 1,200 pages. It's pretty devastating. But in fact, it needs the public prosecutor in Brazil to take action. That is very unlikely because the public prosecutor is an appointee of Bolsonaro.
So that's an interesting point. So that link is there. But would there be any precedent for a president to be held accountable for decision making during a pandemic or any governmental crisis?
Yeah, I mean, not really. I mean, the relevant precedents of the impeachments of two former presidents in recent years, Dilma Rousseff in 2016 and Collor de Mello in 1992. The reality is Bolsonaro has his allies in Congress, and an impeachment against him in Congress is unlikely. What this does, though, is it contributes to the enormous wave of unpopularity that Bolsonaro is facing in Brazil. His rejection rates have been rising steadily over the past year. He faces an election next year where his main competitor will be former President Lula da Silva. And on current trends, he's likely to lose that.
So I guess this report is a lot about his political standing at the moment. What are his chances? What is he actually doing? How is he responding? Because there are still major issues with how the pandemic is being managed in Brazil.
Well, I mean, responding in two ways, actually. His supporters are describing this investigation as a joke, as something that's being set up by Bolsonaro's political enemies. But at the same time, Brazil is slowly beginning to see sense in terms of the way it manages the pandemic. In fact, over the past few weeks, vaccinations have been rolled out very quickly. Brazil has given 2 jabs to nearly half its population now, and the rate of infection, the death rate, is falling. So Brazil was running up to over 4,000 deaths a day back in April. It's now down to below 400.
That is interesting. So progress at least, and that is thanks more to the state or the provincial governors. What about other corruption issues associated with Bolsonaro? What is happening with those?
There's a number of corruption allegations, investigations, mainly against Bolsonaro's 3 most active sons, Flavio, Eduardo, and Carlos. There are investigations about their prominence in fake news activities in Brazil, many of which have been used to encourage belief in these alternative remedies that have been so damaging during the course of the pandemic. There's a lot against Bolsonaro. He's desperate to retain power next year because he knows that if he loses the presidency, he's very likely, and if he's outside the political circle, he's very likely to face charges in 2023.
How much support broadly does he have still, though? He was so hugely popular when he came into power.
Yeah, the reality is that Bolsonaro still has fairly hard-line support and fairly solid support amongst more radical right-wing Brazilians. And he also has quite a lot of support amongst smaller and medium-sized businesses. This is a president who still has, good and excellent ratings of around 25%. So it wouldn't be enough to allow him to win the election at this point, but he does still have a solid base of support amongst his more radical supporters.
Interesting stuff. Richard, great as always. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.